What if a scream of frustration turned you into a global music icon? Welcome to the fascinating journey of Bonnie Tyler's career.
Hey, it's Garrett, feeling curious as ever about today's topic.
And I'm Leah, excited to dive into this with you all. Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
All right, let's set the stage for this one. Today's topic is the life and career of Bonnie Tyler, a Welsh powerhouse whose voice and hits have echoed across decades. I remember hearing Total Eclipse of the Heart during a long road trip, windows down, highway stretching out forever, and that chorus just filled the car. It felt like the perfect soundtrack to the open road, big, dramatic, a little haunted in the best way. And who would have thought a post-surgery scream could lead to such an iconic sound? That twist of fate kind of blew my mind.
Let's open the book on this. Bonnie Tyler was born Gaynor Hopkins in Skewen, Neath, Wales, and she grew up in a big religious household where music was everywhere. Early on, she performed under different names. First Shireen Davis to avoid confusion with Mary Hopkin, another Welsh singer, and later she settled on Bonnie Tyler after compiling options from newspaper name lists. Labels liked it because it sounded distinct and easy to market across countries. Her voice, which people describe as raspy or husky, became her signature after she had vocal cord nodule surgery in 1977. Nodules are like little calluses on the cords, and the procedure, plus a poorly timed scream during recovery, left her with that gravelly tone we all recognize.
Yeah, and that voice sits at this crossroads of country, rock, pop, blues, and even a bit of Celtic color. Early on, you can hear a country pop swing and it's a heartache. By the 1980s, working with Jim Steinman, who was the theatrical songwriter-producer best known for Meatloaf, she leaned into big operatic rock. When people say Steinman's music is Wagnerian, they mean it's oversized and dramatic, like a rock opera with thunderclouds. Critics compared her to Rod Stewart and Kim Carnes after the surgery. But the unique thing is how she could belt with grit and also pull back into something tender without losing character. AllMusic even called her voice inimitable. That's critic speak for you can't copy it and get away with it.
Here's something to get us started in detail. She cut her teeth in Welsh venues and club gigs, even backing Bobby Wayne and the Dixies for a while, which is the kind of apprenticeship that builds real stage chops. She had adopted Shireen Davis earlier to stand apart from Mary Hopkin, and in 1975 she got spotted by talent scout Roger Bell and signed with RCA. The first single, My Honeycomb, did not chart, but the label stuck with her because that tone and presence were hard to ignore. Then came Lost in France in 1976, and RCA pulled out an extravagant press junket. They literally flew about 30 journalists and DJs to Le Touquet in France for a 4-course meal. It sounds wild, but that gamble paid off. The single hit the UK top 10 and got her on Top of the Pops, which was the big UK TV showcase for charting songs.
Speaking of which, early controversies added fuel. More Than a Lover in 1977 got banned from a kids' TV show for being too suggestive. Honestly, that kind of ban can become free promo. Her debut album, The World Starts Tonight, did not chart in the UK, though it hit number 2 in Sweden. Already you see that pattern of strong mainland European interest. Around spring 1977 came the surgery. She was told to rest, got frustrated, screamed, and the voice changed. Studio folks noticed the magic immediately. A single called Heaven did okay in Germany. She later felt RCA's attention got pulled by Elvis Presley catalog activity after his 1977 passing. We will get into that question later. Then in late 1977, It's a Heartache landed like a hammer. UK number 4, US number 3, and one of the best-selling singles ever by estimates.
Okay, let's keep this going. She toured the US in 1978, even sharing a bill at the Greek Theatre with Tom Jones, who is another Welsh icon. Natural Force, her second album, went gold in the States. That's at least 500,000 copies. But she grew frustrated with feeling pushed toward a country lane. Diamond Cut in 1979 landed better in Scandinavia than in America. She was still winning serious recognition, though. She took the Grand Prix International at the Yamaha World Popular Song Festival in Japan with Sitting on the Edge of the Ocean. Those wins matter. They mark you as a world-class vocalist even between huge hits. By 1981, she put out Goodbye to the Island, and then chose not to extend her RCA deal because she wanted a reset on image and material.
Next up, the pivot. In 1982, she signed with CBS, which is Columbia in the US, and the A&R lead Muff Winwood encouraged her to find a new producer. A&R means artists and repertoire, basically the talent scouting and project shaping side at a label. She considered people like Phil Collins and Jeff Lynne, but went straight for Jim Steinman. He initially said no, then heard her rock demos and changed his mind. She flew to New York, sang Total Eclipse of the Heart in his apartment with Rory Dodd, who was a famed session vocalist in the Steinman circle, and boom, sessions at the Power Station with E Street Band members, Rick Derringer on guitar, and those powerhouse backing vocals. That is a murderer's row of players setting the stage for an epic vocal.
Here's where it gets really interesting. 1983 arrives and Total Eclipse of the Heart drops. It sells an estimated 13 million worldwide. Sources vary, but either way, it is colossal. The album Faster Than the Speed of Night debuts at number 1 in the UK Albums Chart, hits the US Top 5 on Billboard, and gets her Grammy and Brit nominations. Critics called her voice inimitable and wonderfully gritty. I love that they also said it created a desperate, lovelorn effect, which in plain terms means she made heartbreak feel cinematic without being fake. Steinman described the song as a Wagnerian onslaught, giant, emotional, like thunder layered over thunder, and she could handle that scale.
Let's move ahead. The mid-'80s kept the momentum surging. Holding Out for a Hero in 1984 comes with the Footloose movie. Film tie-ins are oxygen for singles. Giorgio Moroder, the Italian synth pioneer behind a ton of electronic disco breakthroughs, tapped her for Here She Comes, tied to his Metropolis restoration in 1985. She even picked up a Grammy nomination for Best Female Rock Vocal on that. In 1986, she put out Secret Dreams and Forbidden Fire, still in the Steinman orbit, but with heavy hitters like Desmond Child involved. He is the pop-rock hitmaker behind runs with Bon Jovi and more. The videos were high concept, very MTV era. Then in 1987, she duetted with Mike Oldfield, the progressive rock multi-instrumentalist, on Islands, and followed with a bilingual project in Brazil with Fabio Jr. that shows how early she was to cross-market experiments.
Switching gears just a little, in 1988, she partnered with Desmond Child on Hide Your Heart. That album had songs that later blew up for other artists. The best is the classic example that Tina Turner turned into a standard, and Save Up All Your Tears found life with Cher. She also did a literary crossover that year with George Martin, the Beatles producer, on Under Milkwood. That is a Dylan Thomas radio drama set to music with names like Tom Jones and Anthony Hopkins. It is very Welsh, very art meets pop, and it underscores her range. Then the 1990s brought a strategy shift.
Here's another angle to look at. She signed with Hansa, a German label under BMG, and worked with several producers including Dieter Bohlen, who is a German pop architect known for sleek radio hooks. The idea was to tailor tracks for specific territories. Bitter Blue in 1991 did not even release in the UK or US, but it smashed in Austria and Norway, 11 weeks at number 1 in Norway, and multi-platinum. Some US critics later said the production had too much going on, like bagpipes and a children's choir. That is a taste thing. In Europe, the big sheen worked. She doubled down with Angel Heart in 1992 and Silhouette in Red in 1993, winning major European awards like Golden Europa and an Echo. It is a perfect case study for how one region can taper while another goes supernova.
Why do you think that regional split held so strong? Was it radio format differences or just timing with trends?
I think it was both. Germanic and Nordic radio in the early 90s leaned into melodic, polished pop rock with big choruses, and she delivered that right on time. Meanwhile, in the UK and US, grunge and alternative sounds were taking over. That made it tougher for dramatic adult pop to dominate. So she followed the demand. That's smart business and good instincts.
Moving right along, mid-90s, she tried a wider international push with Free Spirit, working with producers like David Foster and Humberto Gatica, who are legends in adult contemporary. Adult contemporary just means radio that favors polished ballads and mid-tempo songs. She covered Making Love Out of Nothing at All, modest UK charting, but very on-brand vocally. There were clever tie-ins too. Limelight was used by Germany's Olympic team in 1996. Then All in One Voice arrived in 1998, and she kept up her guest work, including on Rick Wakeman's Return to the Center of the Earth, with narration by Patrick Stewart. That is prog rock storytelling. It is niche but respected, and it keeps her voice in cool places.
Let's bounce over to the 2000s. A big inflection point was 2003 with Heartstrings, her orchestral covers album, which set up a francophone resurgence. The bilingual duet Si Demam, Turnaround with Karine Anton, went #1 for 10 weeks in France and topped Belgium too. That is decades after the original Total Eclipse. Then Simply Believe in 2004 and Wings in 2005 leaned into that momentum, with French versions and refreshed classics. She kept popping up on TV, tours, and charity singles. Over time, she also earned 3 Grammy nominations, 3 Brit nominations, and later an MBE in 2022 for services to music. That is formal recognition from the Crown. It is a big deal.
Here's where we go next. The 2010s and 2020s show that staying power. She performed Total Eclipse with Lucy Lawless on Celebrity Duets. Lawless is the actor many know as Xena. In 2013, she represented the UK at Eurovision with Believe in Me. Eurovision's Big Five means the UK auto-qualifies for the final, and she later won Eurovision Radio Awards, even though the scoreboard result was modest. In 2017, she sang Total Eclipse on a cruise ship with DNCE during an actual solar eclipse. Downloads surged, and the song recharted in digital sales. Then Between the Earth and the Stars in 2019 reunited her with early producer David McKay and featured duets with Rod Stewart, Francis Rossi from Status Quo, and Cliff Richard. She published a memoir, Straight from the Heart, in 2023, released a live album in Berlin in 2024, and even stepped into Fashion Week stages.
While we're on a roll, she kept releasing new songs too. Together, in 2025, with David Guetta and Hypaton, interpolated her own Total Eclipse lyrics into an EDM frame. It went top 5 on French Airplay and earned a gold streaming certification there. Then, Only Love arrived in 2026 with a London premiere. She passed in July 2026, and her legacy feels carved in stone. 2 of the best-selling singles ever. It's a heartache and Total Eclipse of the heart, a voice critics still call inimitable, and a career that understood how to pivot across producers, languages, and markets without losing the emotional core.
Okay, let's move on to a thorny what about. Could RCA's focus on Elvis Presley have affected the success of her single Heaven in 1977? When Elvis died, labels did go into overdrive reissuing his catalog, that is true, but I also think chart outcomes are rarely one-cause events. Market fit, seasonal timing, radio programmers' preferences, all of that can tilt a single's fate.
I'm with you that it is multifactorial, but I also think resource reallocation is real. If a label shifts staff, ad budgets, and promo flights toward a tidal wave of Presley releases, then newer singles might miss critical pushes like radio tours or TV spots. Even a few weeks of delay can blunt momentum. So yeah, I think the Elvis shock likely siphoned bandwidth and had some impact, even if it is hard to quantify.
That's a solid point. Radio and press windows are perishable. Still, Heaven charted in Germany, so maybe the song's fit varied by territory too. I guess the fairest read is that the Elvis moment probably did pull attention, while other factors like the song's style and competition that month also mattered. Real talk, the music ecosystem is a Jenga tower of variables.
On to the next thing, cultural aftershocks. Total Eclipse of the Heart is still shorthand for cinematic heartbreak. It turns up in shows, ads, karaoke, you name it. She has duetted it across formats, from Lucy Lawless on US TV to Only Men Allowed, which is a Welsh male voice choir. And I could totally imagine a future series built around a studio and a voice. The episode where a surgery and a scream turn a career on its axis would be must-watch.
Let's take a turn here and play a what if. What if Bonnie Tyler never had the vocal cord surgery? Without the rasp, I think she might have stayed in a softer pop lane, maybe more in line with late 70s crossover singers. The bluesy burn we hear on It's a Heartache could have been smoother, Still good, but not that flinty edge that cuts through radio. And her link to Jim Steinman might not have clicked the same way. His songs love a storm-tossed voice.
Yeah, that checks out. Steinman wrote with vocal drama in mind, and her changed timbre was like perfect casting. Without that, maybe she partners with a producer like Alan Tarney or Jeff Lynne. Both great, but the path probably leans towards sleek pop rather than gothic thunder. In that alternate timeline, It's a Heartache still hits. Melody is melody. But total eclipse as we know it? Maybe it never happens, or it lands with someone else, and we get a different 80s anthem entirely.
Let's not let this one slide by. Even in that alternate world, her instincts about markets and collaborators were sharp. She probably still finds a way to Europe in the 90s with tailored production. But the scale of the 1983 moment may be unrepeatable without the rasp. It is wild how a medical detour reshaped pop history.
Thanks for joining us on this journey through Bonnie Tyler's legendary career. Stay curious and keep learning, folks.